Hey everybody, JCB here with the Awesomist, and you're watching the Awesomist Reviews. Okay, The Last Jedi. First off, when we get to the next movie, can it not have "the" in the title? The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and a new logo would be pretty cool too. All of the old Star Wars movies had a different logo. These just all say Star Wars and they have some text in the middle. That's boring. Alright, so I actually did like this movie. In fact, one of my main criticisms about Star Wars movies in general is that they've needed some new ideas for a while now. The Force Awakens, resting on the laurels of the original trilogy, was expected because fans had to be shown that after the prequels, Star Wars wasn't some fluke whose time had come and gone, or the kind of thing that only worked in the 70s. They had to prove that you could still make a movie that feels like Star Wars, and The Force Awakens did that. But after the nostalgia fest of The Force Awakens and Rogue One, Star Wars The Last Jedi needed to add something new to the Star Wars movies and universe in general. I know everyone complains about the porgs and the crystal puppies, but at least they were new. And they didn't stop the entire movie to have a scene where the porgs all help Chewbacca escape, or have Rey jump on the back of a crystal puppy and ride it through a forest, then stormtroopers chase her on like charcoal puppies or something. It's all very much like Return of the Jedi, which they totally could have done. It could have been so much worse. So I'm actually fine with the new toys. I mean, creatures in The Last Jedi. In Rogue One and The Force Awakens, they didn't really have anything new. They had new variations on old ideas, a chrome stormtrooper here, a black stormtrooper there. But Star Wars movies have been the same thing for a long time, and something new is definitely needed. So it was nice to see some new things in a Star Wars movie, and it was nice to see them try a new type of story in a Star Wars movie. That said, I did have some problems with this film. In fact, I waited this long to do this review because I wanted to make sure that all the kind of nitpicky things I had in my head had fully formed into coherent thoughts and actual issues with it before I came on here and did an actual review. The main issues I had were like inconsistencies and conveniences. The very first image we were ever treated to in a Star Wars movie was a Star Destroyer overtaking a Rebel ship and forcing it to dock. The Rebels couldn't outrun the Empire. Empire big and powerful, Rebels small and puny. It's all there in that first shot, and it's the entire basis for the David and Goliath Star Wars dynamic. But now somehow the First Order can't catch up to a Rebel ship that's running out of fuel for days. And it is days. I mean, Rey is training with Luke for days. Finn and Rose are on that casino Las Vegas planet for who knows how long. And yet the entire movie is centered around a chase scene in outer space that takes days. They can't catch up to them for days. While the Rebels flee the First Order in a slow-motion space version of a car chase, Finn and Rose go on an ultimately pretty pointless adventure. And yeah, it's nice to see some failure in a Star Wars movie. I mean, nowhere in the script writing rules does it say every side adventure and every possible plan has to work out in the end. But there's no reason for this to happen. It doesn't change the story or the characters at all, really. Some say that without Finn and Rose screwing up, the First Order would have never found out about the base that the Rebels were slowly flying towards. But I think they would have. I mean, the First Order can track the Rebels through hyperspace. That basically means they can track them anywhere. And Finn's side quests didn't change the characters or their arcs. They spend a big chunk of the film on the Las Vegas planet to introduce that slave kid who can use the Force. Okay, but that could have been shown at any time, really anywhere. I mean, that seems like the kind of thing you would set up in the very last episode of the franchise so that you have this whole story about, space wizards and these cool powers, and then you end by telling, hey kids, even you could have these powers, and the story might go on forever, but we don't get to see it because it's the last movie. I mean, that's the kind of thing you say for the last movie. Anyway, Finn isn't going to spend the next film trying to redeem himself for his foolish side quest and the lives it cost. He isn't going to be full of regret or anything like that. All he learned was that his initial instinct to not be a part of the conflict was the correct way of looking at this whole war, which confuses the whole good versus evil dynamic of these films. And while we're on the subject of this whole hyperspace tracking technology thing, wouldn't it have made more sense from a storytelling perspective if Kylo Ren could just sense the presence of his mother no matter where she goes? It would have made him that much more of a menacing villain if he had become that powerful between the two movies. You could also develop that relationship with Leia by explaining that they've always had a strong connection. Maybe she had some on-again, off-again conversations with her son over the years and was trying to get him to come home. Then we'd find out this connection would be the rebellion's undoing. That Leia was endangering the mission. More importantly, it would have built up Kylo Ren's character a little bit from the last movie, and it would help us suspend our disbelief when it comes to some of the stuff that's about to happen in the story. For instance, if Kylo Ren can sense his mother wherever she goes, it makes it more believable that he can talk to Rey no matter where she goes. And it makes it more believable that Luke Skywalker can ultimately project his entire presence somewhere else across the galaxy. But no, they made up new space technology that creates all kinds of, if the First Order can track the rebels anywhere, why didn't they do this or that type of plot hole questions. And I know all about the Rogue One connection, but that was put into Rogue One because they knew Johnson was putting it in The Last Jedi. And I know a lot of other people have already complained about this, but the movie also undid a lot of the things that The Force Awakens had set up for the overarching story. And I would have been fine with this if they undid some of the things, but they undid everything. I mean, they might as well have had Han Solo walking around. It's almost as if Disney was looking for any excuse to extend this thing to episode 10 because they undid so much that it's basically a new beginning, and now we only have one film left to set things up and pay them off. There were also a few editing choices in this movie that were kind of weird, like the part where Kylo Ren rotates a lightsaber next to Snoke to stab him with it. I think it would have been more effective if we just had a shot of Snoke setting the lightsaber down next to him and the point happened to already be turned towards him. Then, right when we think Kylo's gonna kill Rey, we get one cut of the lightsaber turning on and slicing through Snoke. Instead, we get this slow rotation shot, and it really telegraphs what is about to happen, to the point where it feels like the filmmakers think we're dumb. That's the feeling I honestly got, that Rian Johnson thinks we're so stupid that we have to have big moments spelled out for us. As for Luke, I would have liked him to be a little less grumpy. That just seemed kind of out of character. Even if he did screw up Kylo Ren's training, I don't think it would have fundamentally changed his overall good nature. By the way, the whole flashback scene of him failing Kylo Ren, or should I say the two flashback scenes of him failing Kylo Ren, were really out of character. And I don't just mean out of character for a Star Wars movie, since I don't think there's ever been any Star Wars movie that straight up did a flashback, but it's also out of character for Luke. I mean, this is the guy who risked everything because he saw the good in Darth Vader and tried to save him, yet he turns on his own nephew, like, for no reason at all, because he's a wannabe Darth Vader. Luke's screw-up should have been left unanswered, or answered by a throwaway line from Kylo Ren about Luke trying to hold him back. Maybe throw in some Anakin-type whine about how Luke is overly critical and jealous of his powers, so the audience makes the connection that, hey, maybe this guy is more like Vader than we give him credit for. Also, some of the attempts at humor felt really flat. The brushing off the shoulder thing, The dismissal of his father's lightsaber was also a little bit out of character for Luke, but only because he had reconciled with his father before he died. So to toss it back to Rey and be kind of dismissive of lightsabers in general would have been okay because maybe he's progressed beyond that. But to toss it over his shoulder was kind of a Guardians of the Galaxy attempt at humor that was just misplaced. Keep your Marvel out of my Star Wars, Disney. Luke's final sacrifice also could have been a bigger, more important event, I think, rather than just letting Kylo slowly stab his force projection. He should have turned off his lightsaber the moment Kylo Ren turned his on, and whipped Kylo Ren's ass with just the power of the Force. Because after all this time, Luke should be at the point of tossing people around like Vader in Rogue One, though obviously not doing exactly that. Maybe disarming Kylo Ren with the Force, then Force pushing him to the ground while he talks to him. Oh, and instead of the millions of lightsaber blasts not hurting Luke Skywalker, why not have Luke stop all the laser blasts mid-air the way Kylo Ren stopped one in The Force Awakens? It'd be a nice payoff for something that had been previously set up, you know, like movies do. Making Luke Skywalker show up and save the day as Luke had previously mocked earlier in the film would have been a great climax, and also served as a great loss for the rebels when he dies after his work is done. Having someone so powerful would have been a huge asset to the rebellion, which would make their loss even greater when Luke finally dies. He would die as a martyr, which could in turn inspire millions to join the rebellion across the galaxy, but at this point, is that something I'm even supposed to hope for in these movies? The whole Finn and Rose side adventure exposes that the war is just a big profiteering racket for the rich, making the rich the real bad guys because without someone willing to buy and sell weapons, the First Order would just be disgruntled space Nazis complaining to each other about Space Obama and whatever the Star Wars equivalent of Kentucky is. So should I even be rooting for the rebels? I think Kylo Ren had it right when he asked Rey to join him so they could put an end to all of it. Although the whole let's start by killing everybody you care about idea really didn't give Rey much to say yes to. Still, the idea of the two of them trying to stop this whole war from the inside while the gears of war are already in motion could have been intriguing. Or, you know, you could just say, screw it and let's go hang out on some tropical planet for the rest of our lives. Although, Kylo Ren probably wears his shorts all the way up to his boob, doesn't he? Oh, I almost forgot, the whole Rose trying to save Finn when he's going to sacrifice himself thing was really, really stupid. Why? Well, Let's do a quick countdown of the top 3 reasons. Here are the top 3 reasons Rose's actions were fucking stupid. Number 3, she didn't know the crash wouldn't kill him. Smashing into somebody in a ship in an attempt to save their life is really stupid. Number 2, she didn't know Luke Skywalker was going to show up and save the day. As far as she knew, the most her actions were going to accomplish would be she would delay Finn's death until after the First Order had killed everybody inside. And number 1, her own sister sacrificed herself to save rebellion lives. So why would she try to stop Finn from dying a hero after spending the whole movie convinced that Finn is some kind of coward? No redemption for you. I mean, imagine if Finn had realized his little side quest had cost the lives of a bunch of rebel fighters, and he immediately felt regret and remorse and vowed to redeem himself. And then at the end of the movie, he gets his chance to sacrifice himself to save everybody else so that they can go on to fight another day. It would have been a great moment for the character, and it would have been a great end for his character arc. I mean, he starts the story as a stormtrooper who doesn't want to kill anybody, and then he would end his story as a rebel hero who saved everyone he cared about. Instead, he'll probably just spend the next movie still confused about what he should do and how to go about it. Anyway, despite my complaints, it was a good movie. It's just that it could have been better, and I think it's Disney's fault for not having an overarching idea for this trilogy before they started filming. I mean, what the hell were they thinking when they decided to just let each individual director do whatever the hell they wanted? Is the next one going to be claymation and an allegory for the French Revolution? Why not? Disney apparently doesn't give a shit. And I probably wouldn't care either if I hadn't waited most of my life to see the continuation of the original trilogy. But no, this is fine. All this is fine. A big smoldering mess where ideas get tossed on the screen with no regard, then tossed aside with equally little cares. Fine. Cool. Cool. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe as I release new videos every week. So until next time, keep being awesome.
Name for that aftertaste.
And then I posted 2 back-to-back videos about what men and women should both bring to Six Flags Magic Mountain. Then I did a review on a touchlight/Bluetooth speaker. And then I flew to the great state of Texas, where I visited Six Flags Over Texas, which was great, and Six Flags Fiesta Texas, where my daughter was sexually harassed.